All right, everybody. So we have our new trailer for The Last of Us Season 2. Of course, full spoilers. If you have not played The Last of Us Season 2, this is not the video for you because we are going to be breaking down all the different things we see in this trailer that could be pointing us to some of the moments from the games and doing some speculation and all that different stuff. This is a heavy Abby-centric trailer, which is exciting because we haven't been able to see Caitlin Dever as Abby, and so we get a speech, which I assume is part of the speech that she actually is going to give to Joel, ultimately at his demise. And so there's a lot kind of to dive into here, and so let's dive into it together. And so first off, we have that first shot. Yes, indeed, the hallway shot, the infamous shot from The Last of Us Part 2, the constant place that Abby reoccurringly goes to in her nightmares where her dad was killed by Joel. And so that is just like it was in the video game with her in there. And then we get our first glimpse of her holding a gun, but then I think our first ever glimpse at a firefly pendant. And so that was really cool to see because I don't remember the very first season ever really showing us the firefly pendant. And so that's really cool to see that she is wearing that. And then of course we get our first glimpse at Abby herself, and Caitlin looks great. She's a great actress and was a great choice for Abby. Again, I'm really curious to see if they go the bulk up route with Abby or if Abby is more toe-to-toe on level with Ellie. I guess we'll see. And then we get, of course, a glimpse of that thing that I keep trying to tell you guys is coming, this big action sequence that was not initially in the game, where we see that horde of infected head towards Jackson and it be a major problem. And so we hear someone sounding an alarm. We see Tommy kind of freaking out, and this horde is going to come and approach Jackson and cause this big action scene. And then we get our first kind of real glimpse at the scars and this creepy just image of them. And they of course are very creepy, very culty, very strange, and so far the tone for them looks great and well done. Then of course another glimpse at Jeffrey Wright as Isaac. He of course played Isaac in the game initially, and I really hope that we are going to get a little bit more of Isaac than we did in the second game. It felt like a lot of his story was probably cut and left on the cutting room floor due to pacing, and I have a feeling that because Craig loves to dive into some of these other stories that maybe we didn't get a glimpse of in The Last of Us, that I have a feeling that Isaac is going to play a much bigger role in season 2 of The Last of Us than he did in part 2 of the game. Then we get a glimpse of some infected that are on fire. I imagine this is actually part of the sequence of them fighting off that giant horde. As you can see the snow and all that stuff around you, it seems like that's a part of it. Then we get this really creepy image of a stalker infected, potentially just creeping around with their creepy hands, and it looks really great. And then there's this scene of Ellie and Dina running away from something that is terrifying them. I imagine this is when they have to book it kind of into the subway where everything is ran kind of over by the infected, and they get that really sweet kind of red environment that is now very infamous with that second game, and is a really cool location, and it looks like we're going to be getting that. Then of course the Dina and Ellie dance scene. It's awesome this is included. It's sweet that this show really does stay incredibly faithful to the source material and then expands where it feels like there's more stories that you could tell or explore, things that TV could be a little bit different. And so having this iconic scene, of course it's from that very first reveal that we got from Naughty Dog in here, is really cool. And then a scene of people on horseback booking it out of there. I imagine that this is probably Joel and Tommy and Abby, but I could be wrong. Tommy, of course, is on that wall when the horde comes and attacks, but maybe that takes place at a different moment. Like maybe that happens earlier and then they go out and do the rounds and there's another attack. Not sure who's on these horses, but that would be my best guess, is that's what this scene is. And then another great glimpse at Abby, obviously distraught. That's got to be her father's grave. Sometime after all the events that occurred, maybe she goes back to it and visits it, or maybe this is directly after. It's kind of unsure, but she looks great. Looks depressed. I imagine this will be played right alongside what Ellie eventually goes through. Then we get this great glimpse of them down in the subways of Dina and Ellie, and this set piece looks incredible. Looks like the game has just come to life, and I love it. All of the infected on the sides trying to break in, like the intensity, and man, just how much it looks like the game brings a smile to my face. And of course, we get another clicker screaming at him through the glass, trying to get in there. And then we have this great shot of Pedro, just like the single tear going down. Again, I think this is a different scene than him talking to the therapist. I think this is him confessing to Tommy at the beginning of the show what happened and him killing all of the fireflies essentially to save Ellie and lying to her and trying to cover that up. That I'm guessing this is the scene where Joel breaks that all down for Tommy. And then we get this interesting scene, and this must be with him and Abby is my guess, and them running from that horde. But it looks like Pedro, so it looks like Joel is closing that door to kind of steal them away in whatever room they're in. Again, there's the snow all around, so it must be some part of this scene. I wonder where that takes place. He's wearing a different jacket than he's usually seen in, so I've got some questions about it, but it looks like that's Joel closing the door. I imagine him, Tommy, and Abby are all together, but maybe not. Maybe it's a whole completely different scene, but it's something that we haven't really seen before from him. And then we have some footage we've seen already, but we have this scene of Ellie screaming. I really do think the longer this has gone on, that this is her after what happens to Joel happens, where she, of course, got knocked out by Abby, and what I'm imagining is that she is going to wake up in the hospital and see Joel again and just lose her marbles. Just how intense she looks in this scene. There's no way that's from her just pouring acid over her bite mark, as some people have theorized. I really think that this is her after Joel and trying to process the trauma that she's gone through. And then a great little glimpse of Maria and Tommy again. This is probably right before he heads off with Joel to go and do their run, where they run into some more trouble, have to pick up Abby. They go on that horse chase in that scene we saw before, have to hide away in whatever cellar Joel was kind of closing the door of. That's my best guess. And then a great glimpse of Ellie boxing. This is probably her processing afterwards, all the stuff that happened, and her being like, I'm gonna go kill people. And then some kind of an explosion. Have no idea where this is, but some building is being exploded, probably by Ellie, if we had to put our money on it. Then, of course, back to the scene of all of the infected just swarming Jackson and them having to deal with the threat of the infected, which I love, by the way, because this scene alone shows that Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann were listening to fans where they're like, hey, the first season of the show was really awesome, but there was not like almost any infected, and it felt like they were barely a problem. And it seems like in this show they're really going to be exploring that, how, like, yeah, you see it everywhere, that the infected are everywhere. And it feels like they've really listened to that criticism, and the infected play a much larger role. And it seems like that little tidbit that they gave us, where they changed a little bit of the lore of how the infected work, where they have those kind of tendrils running through the ground. I bet you that the reason why this horde is doing what they're doing is because somebody triggered the tendrils. And so it looks like that's going to come into play a little bit more, which is maybe why that horde ends up chasing Dina and Ellie, which could make for some very suspenseful, great moments, because that was really not utilized at all when it was introduced in season 1, which was one of my criticisms. Was it was a really cool idea that could create some horrific, suspenseful moments that never got brought up. And it seems like in season 2, they're going to dive a little bit more into that. This is another infamous shot, which is really interesting that it's in here, where Ellie decides to torture one of Abby's friends and beat the information out of her. And so that looks almost identical to the shot that we get in The Last of Us Part 2 game. And so that's my best guess, is that's what this is it is that scene where Ellie tortures one of Abby's friends. Then, of course, the great reveal with the logo. They're really playing on that red, and they revealed to us that Season 2 is indeed coming in April, which I cannot wait for. I hear incredible things from people on the inside who say that the Season 2 lives up to the hype, that it's everything fans are hoping it will be and more. And so I simply cannot wait. That this trailer looked absolutely stunning, and I am even more excited than I was before. That Caitlin Dever as Abby looks incredible, that she's going to do an incredible job, and it seems like Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann are going to knock this thing out of the park again. But with all that being said, we have broken this thing down, and so I want to know what you guys think. What are some of the things I maybe missed, or maybe some of the theories that I have that you maybe disagree with, or what are you excited about for this season? What do you think we're going to see in April? How much of the game do you think they're going to cover? It looks like, in my opinion, they're probably covering for sure Ellie's first 3 days in Seattle. And so we'll see if that's the case or not. But let me know in the comment section down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that junk. And I will see you guys in the next one.